Hey everybody, this is Don again, and it is time for episode 7 of Practical Reality. I'm standing on the banks of the Raritan River in my usual spot in Donaldson Park in beautiful Highland Park, New Jersey. The river actually looks healthier today, not quite as shallow, much more full. Could be a tidal thing. We're also expecting some snow overnight, like maybe 4 or 5 inches is what I hear. Who knows? And it's going to turn to rain, so it may just wash all away, but we need it around here. We need rain and snow real bad. We've been in a drought, so I want hopefully we can make that up. I think there's other stuff coming later on in the week too, Tuesday and Wednesday, something like that. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the weather. I am here to talk about philosophy today. In episode 7, we're going to delve a little bit into philosophy. And the philosophy we're going to talk about today is called existentialism. And since you probably don't know what that is, existentialism is the philosophy the world lives by without even knowing it. And I'm going to explain exactly what the basic principles of existentialism are. And I'm going to talk about why it's important, why the world should recognize it, what the world should do about it, and why it's wrong. So, we're going to start out with the historical background of existentialism. It was born, I believe, in the late 19th century, and there have been several proponents of existentialism. Kierkegaard was one, Heidegger was another, Jean-Paul Sartre, of course, and the most important one to me was Friedrich Nietzsche. And I took a course in existentialism, philosophy course. I just signed up for a philosophy course in my last year of college, had no idea what we would be studying, and it turned out to be existentialism. And the basic tenet of existentialism is that truth is held within the individual, okay? Remember that. Truth is held within the individual. And of course, all notion of a deity, this kind of stuff is completely false. And Nietzsche took that even one step further. He said, famously, that Christianity is probably the worst crime ever inflicted upon mankind, because this notion that you have to be afraid of some God, that he will punish you for your behavior, was the thing that held mankind back from achieving its potential. His notion of what he called the Superman was a person who could live beyond any sort of morality. And that is really what the world does, if you think about it. To explain existentialism very simply, it means that if you can wake up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror, and be fine with who you are and how you act and the way you treat people, then you're good to go. You owe nothing to society as far as your behavior is concerned. You are allowed to act any way you wish. You create your own morality. You create your own truth. Now, look where that has gotten us. But okay, let's back up from that statement a second. When I first read that at 22 years old, my mind was blown. I mean, really blown away. Because I was like, wow, how can people think like that? Here I was at 22, had been brought up in Catholic school, had gone to Catholic high school. I went to Babson College, of course, but that's not a religiously affiliated school. But still, I had this background of not very religious, but I had been exposed to religion and religious education. So to think that this notion that, none of that matters was like, wow, it just blew my mind. And it actually made me think a lot differently. And for a long time, I lived that philosophy. When I was a stockbroker working for Smith Barney in Paramus, I saw evidence of that kind of behavior every single day. There were people working in those offices who espoused not only existentialism, but sort of that masters of the universe type of mentality that was first introduced in that book, Bonfire of the Vanities, which was a fantastic book, which I read when I was probably like 25 or 26, something like that, by Tom Wolfe, and made it into one of the worst movies ever. I think it was Tom Hanks and Melanie Griffith. It got panned like universally from the moment it was released, and it disappeared into the annals of history. But there were people who really espoused that mentality, who took that to make themselves believe that they could do no wrong, that everything they did was proper, and the pursuit of money was the only pursuit worth having. And that is really where the fatal flaw of existentialism lies, because you are not here just to make money. Let's put that another way. You are here. Everyone is here to carve out a life for themselves and the best life that they can have. But then, once you achieve that, what do you owe to society afterwards? That is the key question you must consider. What do you owe to society? Existentialism will tell you you owe nothing. Okay? Existentialism will tell you you can come home every night after work, sit down, drink beer, watch TV, get up the next day, go to your work, and repeat that pattern for the rest of your life and do nothing for no one, and you are fine. And that is just wrong. That's the fatal flaw of existentialism, and that's what nobody realizes today. I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people actually realize that that's the fatal flaw of existentialism, and very few people realize that they live under the philosophy of existentialism, because no one really considers it. No one considers the big questions. It's often said that thinking exists on three levels. You have people who talk about people, you have people who talk about things, and then you have people who talk about ideas, okay? And how many people do you know that actually spend their day talking about ideas? It's not very many. It's just not very many. People would rather talk about people. People would rather find flaw in others, as I discussed in one of my last videos. This is the way that people deal with their own inadequacies. So the whole point of existentialism was to free mankind, according to Nietzsche. That was the will to power. That was the subject of The Will to Power, which was the book that I read in the summer after I finished senior year of school at Babson College. I sat and read that book, 805 pages, I think it was, like 5 pages at a time, because it was so complicated. It blew my mind, and I had to put it down because my head was spinning. But this was the whole idea that Nietzsche was espousing. Setting man free was to free him of any moral obligation towards anyone else. And that is completely incorrect. But that happens to be the way the world lives at this point in time. And that's why the world is so messed up, because nobody takes responsibility for what they do. And yes, of course, there's going to be people out there who say, oh, you're crazy. This is not, but the overall state of the world, look at what's happening in the world, and you can see that this is exactly the way people live. And what does this give rise to? Think about the men who founded this country. What philosophy did they live under? They were a product of the Enlightenment, when it was fashionable, I guess the word would be. It was required of you to be highly educated, to be able to discuss intellectual subjects, to be interested in art and literature and science. You did not hold any status in society during that period unless you were a learned man. That's not required of today's world. You are required to do your job and go home. And the world makes it, those who are in charge, make you feel as if you are powerless, so that you do not try to alter the status quo. Because the money flows to the people with the most money, and if they choose to give any of it away, then fine. But you see, as you can see, most of the world's rich choose not to give that money away. So, what does it mean for you as an individual? You must realize that existentialism is incorrect, and that you, as a person, as an individual, have your own truth to live and have your own morality that you must formulate for yourself on a daily basis. You do owe something to society. Every single person owes a debt to society to be the best person they can be every single day. And how do you do that? Okay? Number one is being kind to others, following the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And if you don't do that, you are not fully human, because you are not realizing the full human potential that you have. And that is what sets you free. Realizing the fullness of your own humanity, that is what sets you free. And that is why the world needs to recognize itself, needs to step back, take a step back, and be conscious of what it does to itself and each other on a daily basis. All the rudeness, all the just terrible behavior, the way we treat each other, is all a result of the fact that we don't think about it. We just accept it as it is, and we accept that this is the way things are going to be, and none of us believe that it can change. And that just simply is not true. It is not true. The world can realize its potential by becoming conscious. That will be the subject of my next video, what it means to live a conscious life. But for now, I want you to think about existentialism, and you can look it up yourself. Look up The Will to Power, look up Kierkegaard. I can't remember some of the other philosophers, but look up the principles of existentialism. It basically says that you don't owe anything to anyone else, and you can act any way that you want and get away with it and feel great if you want to. And that's what people do. That is the way the world lives. And now that you know what it's called, you can identify it as a problem and then solve that problem by making yourself into the best person you can be on a daily basis. And that starts with treating others well, taking others into consideration, not seeking wealth for its own sake, not seeking power for its own sake, making sure that you treat people the way you want to be treated. And when you see an opportunity to help somebody, you take that opportunity. And that is the way that the world will be free and will be better and will fulfill the potential of every human being. And that is what we owe to each other on a daily basis. I welcome your comments. I would love to have subscribers. I would love to have readers. I would love to have respondents. Whatever you want to say is fine. This is how I feel. That will never change. That's my truth that I've come up with over 63 years of pondering and reading and educating myself and having gone through my own share of tragedy. And I found out what's really important in life, and that is treating people well and not looking at wealth as, the ultimate goal. You look at what wealth can do, what you can do with your wealth. That is the best thing you can do. And the way you define wealth for yourself is also your own truth. And your wealth can be defined in many different ways, not just by your bank account. Your wealth can be found in your soul, can be found in your actions, can be found in your character. That is another definition of wealth that everyone must consider. And if you feel like you can make a difference in the world on a daily basis, you can go out and do so, and that makes you wealthy. And I welcome you all to subscribe and comment, and I hope we can continue this conversation. Have a great day.